Two females, very different in dignity, in fair Galilee, where we lay our scene. From ancient misogyny break to obvious power discrepancy, where menstrual blood makes all bodies unclean. From forth the crowds two desperate people emerge, a pair of adults begging for and claiming healing and life, whose adventures and overtures land on Jesus, the repairer of life, the grieving party's fear of death, and the continuance of gendered violence, which physical healing itself not could remove, is now the 10 minutes traffic of our sanctuary. This which if you with patient ear attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. It was fun. Our story unfolds as Jesus gets to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and he is surrounded by yet another crowd. All of this is happening in a context of a very powerful rabbi coming to meet the boat, Jairus, who runs up to Jesus, throws himself down on the ground and begs for Jesus to come and heal his daughter. Jairus is powerful. He makes a big display of not being as powerful as Jesus. And he is there to advocate for his family member, his daughter. She has a position, she has a protector, she has wealth. She has an older male family member who is doing what he's supposed to do, which is to look out for her. And she is known by her family relationship. We hear of her as Jairus' daughter, rather than being known by her affliction. For example, we know her as a daughter rather than a little girl who's gravely ill, or the acute respiratory infection girl, or the malaria child. Do you hear the difference? And this is all highly contrasted with the adult woman in our story. She is not given a name. She is known only by her symptoms, the hemorrhaging woman. She does not have a community, not anymore. She does not have a male relative advocating and making a scene on her behalf. And I have no idea what was happening in her mind, except I suspect it was something to the effect of maybe this time this will work. Maybe this time she'll succeed in yet another attempt for healing. I can only imagine how many times she has asked herself that. Is this going to be the time? I wonder how many times she had seen, touched, observed, been to someone, probably more times than we can imagine. It was all consuming for her. She had tried everything and then some, and then still no healing for her. And what wealth she had had, perhaps given to her by her father or husband, is now all spent. No midwife or doctor could help her. But they all took her money. She is considered unclean, which means she was completely cut out from society. No relationships, no one advocating with or for her, no one giving her shelter, helping her to cook meals or to carry water. She was facing death on numerous fronts, physically, culturally, socially. The systems of community and safety were failing alongside her bodily systems. And I wonder if it was her desperation, her need for Jesus, that emboldened her that day. She was alone in her struggle, and she reaches out her hand for healing. She needed this. And this time, God met her there. Others touched Jesus. There was a huge crowd after all, but no one else was being healed by touch. Except that one time, and both parties knew what had just happened. And this, friends, is what I would call a miracle. Healing comes in many forms. And with Jesus and God, it's a fool's errand to try to figure out when and where and why and how. We don't know. We don't know why it worked for her and not for all of those pressed in on Jesus that day. Because I'd bet there were some sick people in that crowd too. We cannot truly know what happened for her. We cannot truly know what happened for the little girl. There are books and songs and all sorts of ways that we as faithful people want to understand. And we want to replicate it for those that we love. And we want to replicate it for ourselves. But we don't know. And it feels erratic and unfair. And it also feels kind of like how life is today and has been. And yet, when miracles happen, even today, they can be scary, they can be awe-inspiring, they can be quiet. And asking why or why not is not typically a helpful question. It's human. Perhaps a better response is to simply give thanks. A friend of mine, we'll call her Beth, was working for a church as a Christian educator in a Midwestern state. She was not working for that denomination. She was working for another one. Not the one in your head. It was another one. And she is brave and loving and compassionate, as you might imagine. And she finally spoke her truth and came out as a queer person and asked her husband for a divorce. And she was desperate for community, for healing, for people who might understand what she was going through. And she kept trying to connect with people, to connect her with other LGBTQIA, religious clergy and other folks. And no one seemed interested in getting together with her, and she didn't understand why. Was it because she wasn't clergy? And she was just a low staff person? Was it because of denominational stuff? Did people like her husband more than they liked her? She didn't know. But when her church learned of her brave choice, she lost her job. So she lost her faith community, and her family was reeling and were not especially supportive, and she was on her own. And all of the Christian community and circles that she had were not open and affirming. And so she was just cut off. But she kept trying. She kept looking for new people, new circles to join. But that first year was really isolating. And she wondered, where was God? The adult woman in our story bravely reached out her hand to Jesus, and then she did another brave thing. She came forward when Jesus said, "Who was that?" She came forward and she said, "Here's my story," and she laid it all out for him. And then Jesus healed her a second time. This time, he restored her to community. Her body was healed, and now as he called her daughter, she became part of the relationship with him and with society again. She rejoined the family of faith and the community as a person in relationship to an adult male, which was really important then. And Jesus offered his power to her to help her to be restored into that community and into true wholeness. And this type of power, this type of healing and strength, is the kind of good work, of miracle work, of healing that seems to be within our grasp. For my friend Beth, it took one person who unlocked the pain of isolation for her. She met someone, a woman, online, and they began dating. This person was not a church person, but it turned out that some of her friends were LGBTQ clergy. They were just in another denomination. And over many months, Beth's wounds started to close as her social calendar started to fill. And she was full of hope the last time we spoke, saying that she had found her own apartment. She had just finished a year in a secular job that she really loved. And she now had a group of people to call her own. And I wonder how we might be called to bring healing like this that is within our power. How, like Jesus, might we focus on restoring people to relationship? Perhaps this means or looks like being in relationship with someone who needs a friend, or someone who just needs us to listen, or someone to meet them for a walk, or to meet them to go to a museum together, perhaps to a pick-a-party event. Who around us needs to be restored into relationship? And perhaps that person is us. How might we keep asking for what we need and looking for that other person who will say yes when we say, do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to go to this pick-a-party event with me? How might we be a friend in order to make new ones? Healing takes numerous forms. And it takes strength to walk alongside others when their life goes through twists and turns. And it is part of our witness of faith to be the bridge builders, the people who say, I see you, and those who reach out our hands first. The adult woman seems to be very courageous and a strong person, as is Jairus, as are we. So may we seek to heal and be healed together. Amen.